Shalom. Hello and welcome to our online Haaretz mini-fest with the online edition of this year's Jerusalem Film Festival. In a series of interviews, we, our journalists, will be talking to the directors and producers of some of the most intriguing films that will be featured in this year's festival. Today I have the pleasure, a true pleasure, of hosting Oka Hoogendijk, director of a wonderful, wonderful film called My Rembrandt, which follows four worshippers of Rembrandt's work. We'll talk to Oka Hoogendijk in her home in Holland. Hello, good evening, Oka.
Hello.
Hello, nice to meet you online and not meeting you in person. Having watched your wonderful film, I have to say that the first question that comes to mind is, why did you name the film My Rembrandt?
Well, that's a good question.
Yes.
That's about the title of the film. So my aim when I started this film was to make a very intimate film. So that means a film which would really show the bonds between people that own a Rembrandt, because it's not so normal to have a Rembrandt painting. Rembrandt is our most famous painter from Holland. And it's not so normal to have a painting of Rembrandt in your own home. So I wanted to make this film not particularly on Rembrandt as a painter, but more people that collect Rembrandts. So it's a film on an intimate bond between the owner of a painting and the painting. And that's why I called it My Rembrandt.
What is Rembrandt for you?
Yes.
Who is Rembrandt for you, being obviously Dutch and having filmed in depth the story of the Rijksmuseum, which is a massive institution? Yet you've named your film My Rembrandt, and you obviously following people who are collecting Rembrandts, but what do you emotionally feel when you look at an original? Do you still, after all these years, feel a connection to the actual painting?
Oh, yes. Yes, of course.
Because,
you do? You know, Rembrandt is not just a painter for me, and I think for most people.
Yes.
Because what Rembrandt did with his paintings was that he, differently than other painters from the 17th century, painted people exactly the way they were. So
Yes.
he painted people who were sometimes ugly. He showed fat bellies, for example. He painted himself also when he was
yes.
old and when he lost all his money.
And his child.
And he lost his wife.
Yes.
And you can tell when you see him in the painting, his grief, that he's a broken man. It's a painting that's just before he dies.
Yes.
So he was he had such an honest way of portraying himself and other people. And that's, for me as a filmmaker, it's also how I would love to make films. So not only showing the outside, the superficial side of people, but really go into the tragedies, the pain, the love, everything that comes with it. So that's Rembrandt to me. And also I like to add to that there's one Rembrandt painting that is my favorite painting, and that the painting that the Duke of Buccleuch owns.
Right.
It's the Old Woman Reading. There's... Yeah, go ahead.
In the film, the Duke of Buccleuch is being photographed in his solitude, in his rooms, and he is interested in transferring his own personal Rembrandt from one room to another room. And it seems, and he talks a lot about how much he adores the face of the elderly woman who is reading. And that's your favorite painting of Rembrandt, of all the Rembrandts you've seen. Have you seen many?
I've seen many because I live in Amsterdam and I go to the Rijksmuseum a lot. So
yes, obviously.
I've seen so many, and I say each time that I see this painting, because you must imagine that I was, while filming with
Yes.
the Duke, I was in his castle
Yes.
in Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went to the dining room every day, I was there for a week.
Ah, you
And
stayed at his house for a week.
And every time I went to the dining room or the breakfast room, I had to pass by that painting who was hanging on the wall. And every time I passed by, I made a little bow like this. And I felt some kind of, tears in my eyes. I cannot explain. It's so serene. It's such a profound painting. It's so beautiful that I fell in love with that painting. I must admit, yes.
For you, does it, saying falling in love with a painting is an emotion or a feeling or a sentiment that runs through your film, because other collectors, whether they are buying it for their own amusements or not, famously at somewhere in the film, the American art collector, Jewish American art collector Kaplan, says that he literally touched with his lips the Rembrandt he owns. So clearly people feel a very strong emotional connection to Rembrandt. My question to you is, after spending time with the Duke of Buccleuch and spending time with Jan Six, who is famously discovered a new Rembrandt, quote unquote, do you feel that Rembrandts should be privately owned and held captive in castles?
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yes.
Yes, I do, funny enough, because I think that we should not forget that in the old days,
yes,
there were no museums. So in the old days, all the paintings were in people's houses, like you see some now.
Yes.
So I think it's quite a natural thing that people own paintings and have them in their living room, because that's the way it used to be. Also, we should not forget that there are many museums now. Mm-hmm. And also Thomas Kaplan, who's in the film, he gives his paintings on loan.
Yes, he tours with his paintings.
Museums. So he doesn't keep them to himself. And I think it's a good thing that also even the Duke of Buccleuch has some days that their visitors can come and have a look. So I think nobody is really having it all for themselves. So I think it's very well done. I think it's a natural thing.
In the film, Jan Six, who is famously, as I said before, has announced that he found a new previously unknown Rembrandt, which is a long historical affair, of course, because he himself comes from a family of the first Jan Six, painted by Rembrandt himself. So you followed Jan Six through a journey in which he found a new Rembrandt, and he says, when you interview him, and you came really, really close, as you said before, you really zoomed into Jan Six's adventure with his own Rembrandt, and he says that for him, buying a Rembrandt is like buying or selling a human being, a real person. He feels it's not about money, he feels like he's trading people, not just trafficking people, not works of art. That's how deeply he feels about that. But,
yes. Mm-hmm. Your question is if I agree with that, or...
Do you think, my question is, having followed the transition and the acquisition and the selling and buying of Rembrandt art that can be very, very expensive, do you think that the motivation behind Jan Six is financial or emotional?
Well, that's a very direct question.
I'm sorry, yes, it's...
No, it's okay, it's okay. I think that if you look at Jan in the film, Jan Six, you can hopefully see that he has many motivations.
Okay.
Because this young man, beautiful, handsome young man, art dealer,
with a beautiful dimple that looks exactly like his father.
Yes, and he has. I think you see in the film that he has a problem, because he doesn't just want to be the famous Jan Six, because his forefather was painted by Rembrandt.
Famously
he wants
so.
to be more than that. He's very ambitious.
Yes.
And all he wants is to be number one in the art dealer world. And so there's a lot at stake for him. It's not just, something. It's for him. It's live or die. So he calls himself a Rembrandt detective.
Yes.
And what he does in his life is he's searching through the internet all the time, at night, during the day, looking, finding on, auctions, whether he can discover a new Rembrandt. Okay. So he wants to really put himself online on this. He wants to be famous. He wants to make money. He wants to show that he knows everything.
And he also wants to impress his own father.
And there you got a point, because that's what I was going to say.
Please, share.
I mean, to be seen by your father, and that's very important for him, because there you feel a little bit in the film that there's a complicated relationship between father and son.
Yes.
And that he wants his father to see him.
Yes.
It's simple.
And
that's what we hope to show in the film.
When you were invited or asked Jan Six to join his journey towards the new Rembrandt that he has found, and we know now that finding a new Rembrandt is a big deal, not only financially, but also in the art world. Did you know what's going to unfold? As you met with him, and you also describe the famous Rembrandt expert scrutinizing the Rembrandt and telling him, well, it's not a real Rembrandt, and then he changed his mind, the expert, about the authenticity of the painting. Did you know when you set foot joining young Jan Six that this is what's going to happen with him, that he's going to be scrutinized, charged with various accusations? Did you know that, or you were just, what did it do to your film?
Well, that's a very good question.
Thank you.
When I met Jan Six, he had discovered one Rembrandt, but nobody knew about it. It was totally secret.
Yes.
But he said to me, stick with me, and we will make a wonderful film, because I'm going to discover another one.
So he told you.
So I knew. He was on the hunt for another one already.
Okay.
So I knew when I was thinking, shall I make this film? I was still wondering and doing research. I knew when I met him, this is going to be a very exciting subject for a film, because he was so flamboyant and he was so exciting that I thought, it's going to work. It's going to work with this character in the film. But of course, I did not know that he would come later. He comes in such a horrible situation, because he's accused by another art dealer of doing a deal which was not kosher, to say it in your terms.
Yes.
And I didn't know that. Nobody knew that. And nobody knew that all of the media in Holland, all the newspapers, it was front page news. So as a filmmaker, I mean, I will not deny that I had some sleepless nights because of how to do with it in the film.
How to deal with...
To deal with it, because you never want to damage somebody in a film. You cannot do that, because...
In a documentary,
when you... to protect him. You know, as a character in my film, I wanted to protect him.
Okay.
At the same time, he was being accused by the media. He was in the newspapers. It was really a big thing in Holland. And also, even in the New York Times, there was a big article about it. It was it went global.
So when you made the film and this unfolded as a detective story, as a grand scandal, so you knew that your film had something, and you thought how you're going to finish the film, how it's going to impact your film. What was your thought process during that? Would you please share?
Yes, of course. You always have that moment that you think, can I put this in the film? Mm-hmm. Because it's so painful. And Jan Six didn't really like the idea that I would bring it into the film. But I was in a dilemma because not bringing it in the film would be strange because it was all over the news.
Yes.
And if I would not have brought it into the film, everybody would say to me, hey, where were you? Were you doing winter sleep or what was happening? So I had to bring it in the film. There was no question that I should not do that. But then I had to find a way to do it, to bring it into the film without putting Jan down. Because as a filmmaker, I think you always protect your characters in the film. But I was, of course, also following what was happening because things were happening very fast. It was in every talk show on the television. And so we just took the camera and followed the action. And then later in the edit room, we decided to put it together the way that we did. And, you know, I personally like a lot that the film ends with Jan Six saying that he is on the hunt for a third one. So he did strong.
So he got his father's approval and he decided to carry on and keep hunting new Rembrandts or recognized Rembrandts.
I wouldn't agree with that because I wouldn't say that he got his father's approval. No?
No?
I think, no, because his father didn't like the fact that it was all over the news and it was bad on the name of Six.
Okay. Because in your film, you're also invited to the drawing room of Eric de Rothschild, which he decided to sell two Rembrandts that he had in his family for over 100 years. And he doesn't seem to be so emotional about that. And it unfolds into this international clash between the French people and the Dutch people. And that's also a major story which you are able to describe so beautifully in your film, without losing the artistic sense and sensibility that you show in the film. You're welcome. I found the film it's a marriage of business and commerce and power plays with a beautiful zoom in and looking and contemplating and quiet. It's a very interesting, beautiful film. Do you feel that Rothschild family gave up on Rembrandt just for money, or you feel that why did they sell the Rembrandts if it's such a coveted treasure?
Well, there's a very easy answer to that.
Please.
And it's partly in the film, because what Eric de Rothschild tells in the film is that his brother, who's living in America, has a huge problem with the tax, paying tax. And you can imagine, you know, that's a very rich banker's family.
Of course.
You can imagine that it's not like maybe with you and me about some money, but it's really about huge amounts of money. And that he owns the paintings. It's a wedding portrait, so it's two paintings.
Yes, life size.
Martin and Opje, it's called. And that he and his brother, he wanted to help his brother, and he decided to sell the paintings because you cannot divide them; they belong together. So he sells it because of tax problems of his brother.
Yes,
He really is sad about it because he loves them.
He loves them.
But he has made that decision, and you know, it's about so many millions of money and he did a very good deal. He did made a very good deal because France, the Louvre Museum, and in Amsterdam, the Rijksmuseum, they both wanted it. So what you see in the film, it becomes a great strife who's going to get it.
Yes.
They both want it. And then finally they have to buy it together, which is not really what the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam would have loved the best. It wasn't them. They wanted them both.
Yes.
But they couldn't get it.
When you follow these people who own a Rembrandt, who have so much money, who the world is just a sandbox for them, but they do love the artwork. When did you decide that that your film is complete? When did you, when having filmed all these 4 collectors and their different various stories and the international feuds, and of course Jan Six and his story and his struggle to become a great Rembrandt discoverer, to make his own great Rembrandt discovery. When did you feel that your film had come to an end, finished? What made you finish the film? What was the process? Mm-hmm.
That's a rather complicated question, but I think it was when the whole quarrel and the whole problem with Jan Six was done, and this whole story was told, mm-hmm. and the other story was also ended, the one with the Rothschild and the Rijksmuseum and the Louvre. All those stories come to an end in the film, and that when they came to an end, then my film was, and also the Duke, who wanted to hang his painting in a different room.
Yes.
That was also finished. And then I thought, now all the stories are well told and coming to a natural end. And that's when you say, okay, we got it. We have it. Now we can edit, finish the film, and bring it out in the open. Only then the Corona crisis started. So
yes.
That's another story.
Yes, that's another story. And even though I'm rushing forward, I would very much like you to please share, if you're making whatever film you're making now. I'll take the liberty and say that reading about your work and watching your work, I realized that you also have an ongoing project which you're filming that has to do with your own background and your own story. And I was wondering if this film, would you want to share a little bit what to look forward? What can we look forward in your next creation, next film, next project, if you want to share with us?
I think you're referring to the film about my mother. Is that right?
Yes, it is. If you would like to tell us a little bit about that, I would be very grateful. That would be nice. Thank you.
Yes, that's no problem. The difficult thing is that my mother died a few months ago.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I'm in a bit of a strange mood about that, but I've been following my mother for many years on camera, and my mother is a Holocaust survivor.
Yes.
And my mother is, the film is called Auschwitz, which is a word that is combining Auschwitz and house music. Mm-hmm. My mother was 90 when we filmed that. She adores house music.
She adores house music.
She also lives in her own house and doesn't come outside because of the fears she got from the Second World War. She has we call it agoraphobia. I don't know if you know what
agoraphobia.
It means.
Yes, I do. Yes.
So she only lives in her house, but she has many computers, and the world was coming in all day long. And she was a very, very intelligent and clever woman. Mm-hmm. And the film is about dealing, after so many years, how do you deal with the memories of the war? So it's not about the Shoah, but it's about how do you live on? Mm-hmm. And that's what shows the film. And also she was a very funny character, so there's a lot of humor also in the film, fortunately.
Thank you for telling us about this film, which yes. I can understand and see that this is something that not only you've dealt with over the years and previous films, before your Rijksmuseum series, you did look at the Holocaust in Holland and elsewhere in previous work that you've directed and done.
Yes.
And now, after having completed the Rembrandt film, you are going to complete this film, having filmed your mother all these years. So you're thinking about perhaps now finishing it after she's
Yes, I
gone?
think this is the moment to really finish the film, because I can't film her anymore, and I have so many hours. I'm very happy I can still look at her so much, because I have so many. I think I have 80 hours of films, of hours that I filmed her, and I'm really looking forward, because I can't see her in life anymore. So I'm really looking forward to go all over all that material, and I'm sure I will have a good time editing the film, finalizing it, and then bringing it out. And I hope to come to Jerusalem with this film.
Please do. And I'm sure that people here would find this film and its content very interesting, moving, and close to home. And please accept my condolences. I hope this film would be a film that would put together all of your years watching her and listening to her.
I'm going to do the best I can, I promise you.
That would be my Rembrandt, but that would be something else, my something else. Yes, yes. Yes.
My Yiddish mama, my Yiddish mama.
My Yiddish mama, of course. Yiddish mama. Right, right. I'm so looking forward to. I have to say that I find this very emotional. I know that you. Thank you for sharing the details about that new films of yours, which is actually not new, because you've been. No.
I know my mother for quite some time.
Yes, 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 yes. Thank you so much for joining us. I was asked, there's so many questions and so many things we can talk about. I'm sure that people would love Rembrandt the same way you show us how people can love Rembrandt.
I hope so.
Yes.
I hope so. And I want to say thank you for this interview, and I really enjoyed talking to you. I think you're very charming.
Oh, thank you. Okay. The feeling is mutual. It's just that when you watch someone's film and you see how artistic and thoughtful it is, and having to deal with people who trade Rembrandt for so much money and power and power plays and issues with their parents, there's so many things to talk about. It's very difficult to condense into a short conversation. I always say, I don't know if I have another minute or not. Of course, please do.
Because I always say maybe this is easier to say it this way. What I tried with that film is I think that Rembrandt put a mirror to us.
Yes.
And he shows every kind of, somebody loves his painting just by real love, like the Duke of Buccleuch. But you also see jealousy, you see greed. I mean, you see all those human kind of qualities that we all have.
Spectral.
And I wanted Rembrandt to put a mirror to us and to really show what his work does with us, human beings. That's I think the easiest way to put it.
Yes, because of the fact that he painted himself. You said in the beginning of the interview, you said he painted himself in such a harsh and non-sentimental and truthful way.
Truthful way, yeah, exactly.
So
yes,
you wanted to do the same thing,
exactly.
And you've accomplished that, and especially. Well, I'm sure for people who are not Europeans or perhaps not Dutch, know Rembrandt through museums and don't know these people who have the ability to hang a Rembrandt at in their living room. That's also an introduction to a world that is beyond our comprehension for many of us.
And this is a very small world, because only it's the world of the old masters, and it's a very small world because it's only the people that have that much money to sell and buy and Rembrandts, because it's such a high price that you have to pay for it. So I was very privileged to enter that world, and I also liked very much having dinner with Baron de Rothschild.
Yes,
he's a very charming man, when you meet him. And it was a lot of fun. to make the film, really.
Your camera doesn't shy away from him, unfazed. It seems like you're not impressed or not impressed with the amount of money and power these men has in the real world. You seem to be quite at ease. You think it's your years dealing with the Rijksmuseum that...
No.
What do you think it is?
It's, most of all, I think it is that I know that these people, they hate it when you are doing this all the time and being, they like to be approached normal. Also the child. I had a very good relation with him. I'm still seeing him sometimes when I go to Paris. I mean, now with the corona, everything is gone. But he came to Amsterdam and we had dinner. So they like it when you just act normal and be friendly and don't act like there's a huge difference. So that's what I did. And I think that's the only way to make a film like that. Because if you're starting to be too distant and too scared to, because they only have money. I mean, they're just very kind people. That's what I think.
Yes, and I think that as a documentarist, of course, this level-headedness, this treatment of the person you look at with respect, yet not too humbled by him, that's a good way, that's a good relationship with your subject, isn't it?
Yes, and also you always have to be very curious. So when you're honest in that, and you really want to know something from somebody, it doesn't matter whether they're very rich or very poor. I tend to work with all kinds of people. I also make films on people that have no money.
Yes. Yes.
The only problem I had was that people have to allow you to enter.
Right.
Because also the Queen of England, she has two very beautiful Rembrandts.
Have you seen them?
I would have loved to have her in the film, but she wouldn't allow me to, because the Queen of England gave access to me. So that was my only bummer.
So at this particular point, when we got to the Queen of England, let's hope that next year, A, you'll come to Jerusalem and we'll meet, and second, that the Queen of England will finally show you her Rembrandts. I hope it happens.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for speaking to me today. And
thank you. Good luck with the program.
Oh, thank you very much. We're very excited here and very pleased to be cooperating with the Jerusalem Film Festival. And
Wonderful.
It was a pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.